In order to understand economic enslavement, I think it's really important for people to realize the two conditions that I would say make the modern human condition. So the first of which is the spoken word, and the second would be money. Firstly, the spoken word. In a pre-internet world, the way that we document the spoken word is typically pen, piece of paper. When you have different variants of knowledge and our collective existence being documented in thousands of different mother tongues, it makes it very easy for wisdom, knowledge to be clustered. With the invention of the internet, it broke down many of these barriers. We are witnessing the effects of knowledge being more freely distributed around the world, where the orchestrators of society, they're not wielding their power as ubiquitously as they once were, easily controlling from the shadows as they once were. So that's the first condition, is the spoken word and how the spoken word has percolated around the world and been controlled. The second is money, right? It's how we communicate our value. The human labor market is factored by two things: the time it takes to perform a laborsome task, and what condenses the time it takes to perform the laborsome task is the skill set that that individual holds. So the more skilled I am, the more I condense time to perform the labor. I therefore can then step into the workplace and I can command a higher salary for my time because I get more done for the same amount of time as another human being. So I might be worth £100,000 a year, as opposed to somebody else who might take 3 times as much, maybe worth only 40,000. We all do this as employees, we're all doing this. So we have this system of measuring human being productivity, and we call it currency. It's our way of trading. The problem is that when the unit of measure, the unit of trade, can be meddled with behind closed doors by just printing more of it, that's the hidden tax called inflation, the grim reaper that creeps into all of our bedrooms late at night and extracts not money, it extracts your time. So now you are on the hamster wheel, pumping more vigorously than you've ever pumped before, and yet the output is the same at best, or it's diminishing. And then we accept that every single year when we go down to the supermarket, bread and eggs is more expensive. This is the lay of the land of what it is to be a modern human in today's economic society. And when you have society being disbalanced in terms of global political and corporate corruption, that's in the sense of information, withholding information, or putting out misinformation, fake news. And then you couple that with being able to drown a nation in so much debt, create economic climates that are so cancerous that for the most part, it neuters most people from even being sensitive to what's going on over here. And we're seeing this play out right now, right? With global lockdowns, with this pandemic, everything it is that they're doing and how they're going about doing it. We're seeing this stuff play out right now.
The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has committed more than $350 million for the development of diagnostics, therapeutics, and vaccines in the fight against the coronavirus. Earlier today, I asked Bill Gates what he makes of the results coming out from those early vaccine trials.
We don't know if these vaccines will work. We don't know if they'll work to avoid deaths. We don't know if they'll work to avoid transmission.
The president said just this weekend that the U.S. has the lowest mortality rate in the world. Is that factually correct?
Not at all, not even close. I mean, by almost every measure, the U.S. is one of the worst.
Why are we one of the worst?
If you read terrorism by the definition, it is the spreading of fear in order to further a political aim. That is the definition of terrorism. You search it on Google. So everything that's happening and has been happening in 2020, you have fear-mongering in order to enact and facilitate a political agenda and a political aim. Tell me how this is different to sheep herding. You've got the shepherd, you've got the dog, and you've got the sheep. Sheep, general population, it's us. Sheepdog, terrorists. The process of sheep herding is you have a population that you wish to steer in a particular direction. In this case, the white picket fence. In order to enact movement in the right trajectory, shepherd lets off the sheepdog, and the sheepdog terrorizes, barks, aggression, nips at the population in order to steer it towards its salvation. But at this point, the sheep are unaware of where the salvation is because we're being terrorized, right? I'm in a state of frenzy, a state of panic, until I see my savior, Mr. Shepherd, open up the white picket fence. And I know there that, okay, that must be my point of salvation. And we as a population are moved towards entering that false sense of security. As soon as that gate closes behind us, only then do we realize what has happened. That it was the very shepherd that set that dog on us in the first place to get us into that circumstance. It's not so easy to be emotionally steered and charged and taken down the wrong path if you can afford to be still. If you can afford to not run with the herd, but pop your head above the herd and just have a look around. If you can afford that when you see corruption, that your voice can actually be vocalized and it can be heard without being penalized. And even if you are penalized, you could take care of yourself so you're not worried about the penalty that's coming your way. It makes it almost too easy that when you have the top of the pyramid controlling both of these two sides that I'm speaking on, right? The control and flow of information, your media channels, right? We know 90% of Western media is owned by 5-6 corporations. A very concentrated control stranglehold on the world. If you want to know who those 5-6 corporations are and who they're linked to, just see which ones are trying to desperately convince you that Trump is the Antichrist. You follow those links and then you get to the Committee of 300, who are also in control of the printing and issuance of our currency systems. Then you start to get a very clear picture as to why it's so important to have and maintain individual sovereignty from an economic standpoint so you can embrace your intellectual sovereignty.